The royal cruiser Starbloom moved silently through the darkness of space. Its hull was painted in the deep purple colors of the Valori Empire, and its engines glowed with soft golden light. Inside the ship, Princess Yuna stood before a large window and watched the distant stars pass by like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. She was young for a Valori royal, barely 200 years old. Her skin was pale blue and glowed faintly in the dim light of her quarters. Her eyes were silver, like polished mirrors, and her long white hair floated gently behind her, as if she were underwater. She wore the formal robes of her house, decorated with symbols that told the story of her ancestors. Today was supposed to be a day of hope. Yuna was traveling to meet with the leaders of the Terran Dominion, a powerful empire that had been at war with her people for 3 generations. Thousands of lives had been lost on both sides. Entire planets had burned. But now, finally, there was a chance for peace. Lady Hana entered the room quietly. She was Yuna's advisor and closest friend, an older Valori woman with kind eyes and a worried expression. She bowed respectfully before speaking. "Your Highness, we will arrive at the meeting point in 1 hour," Hana said. "The Terran delegation has confirmed their presence." Yuna nodded but did not turn from the window. "You still have doubts, Hana?" "I do," Hana admitted. "The Terran have never honored a treaty before. They are known for their tricks and lies. I fear this peace offer may be a trap." Yuna finally turned to face her advisor. She smiled gently, though there was sadness in her eyes. "I understand your fear. I share it. But if we never try to make peace, the war will continue forever. My father sent me because he believes I can succeed where others have failed. I must try." Hana lowered her head. "You are braver than I am, Your Highness." "No," Yuna replied. "I am simply more tired of war." The ship continued its journey through the empty space between stars. Commander Deho, the leader of the Royal Guard, ran final checks on security systems and weapon arrays. He was a large Valori male with dark blue skin and scars across his face from old battles. He had served the royal family for over a century, and he trusted no one outside his own crew. "All systems ready," he reported to his team. "Stay alert. I do not like this meeting location. Too far from any friendly territory." His soldiers nodded and checked their weapons. They wore heavy armor that shimmered with protective energy fields. Each one was trained from birth to fight and die for the princess. Today, they hoped, their skills would not be needed. But hope is a fragile thing in the cold darkness of space. The attack came without warning. One moment, the sensors showed empty space. The next moment, 12 Terran warships appeared from nowhere, their cloaking devices dropping as they opened fire. The first blast hit the Starbloom's engine section. Flames erupted through the lower decks. Alarms screamed throughout the ship as crew members ran to battle stations. Commander Deho shouted orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Return fire. Protect the princess." The royal cruiser's weapons blazed to life, sending streams of bright energy toward the attacking ships. One Terran vessel exploded in a ball of orange fire, but there were too many enemies, and they were too close. Another blast tore through the ship's hull, killing dozens of crew members instantly. Yuna was thrown to the floor as her quarters shook violently. Lady Hana helped her to her feet, blood running from a cut on her forehead. "We must get you to the escape pods," Hana shouted. "The ship is lost." "No, I will not abandon my people." Yuna tried to run toward the bridge, but Deho appeared in the doorway, blocking her path. "Forgive me, Your Highness," he said firmly. "But your people need you alive. You are the last heir to the throne. If you die here, our empire dies with you." Another explosion rocked the ship. Through the window, Yuna could see the Terran vessels moving closer, preparing for the final attack. "There is no time to argue," Deho continued. "I will hold them off. You must go now." Tears filled Yuna's silver eyes. She knew he was right, but leaving felt like betrayal. She looked at Lady Hana, at the soldiers who had followed her into this trap, at the crew members who were dying to protect her. "I will come back for you," she whispered. "I promise." Deho smiled, the first smile she had ever seen on his scarred face. "I know you will, Your Highness. Now go." He pushed her toward the escape pod bay while his soldiers formed a wall behind them, firing at Terran troops who had begun boarding the ship. Lady Hana ran beside Yuna, guiding her through smoke-filled corridors and past fallen bodies. They reached the escape pods just as a Terran soldier appeared behind them. Hana turned and fired her small weapon, striking him in the chest. But another soldier emerged from the shadows and shot Hana through the back. "No!" Yuna screamed. She caught her friend as she fell, holding her in her arms. Hana looked up at her with fading eyes. "Go, my princess. Live. Make peace another way. Do not let our deaths be meaningless." Her body went still. Yuna laid her gently on the floor, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. Then she climbed into the nearest escape pod and sealed the door behind her. The pod launched just as the star bloom exploded. Yuna watched through the small window as her ship, her crew, and her dreams of peace were consumed by fire. The Terran vessels did not pursue her. Perhaps they thought all the pods were empty. Perhaps they simply did not care about one small survivor. The pod's computer searched for a safe destination. It found only one planet within range. A small blue world, listed in the Galactic database as Earth. The file was old and contained little information. Class 7 primitive civilization, no space travel capability, quarantined by order of the Galactic Council, not recommended for contact. Yuna did not care. She was wounded badly. 3 of her 4 lungs had been damaged by flying debris. Her violet blood soaked through her robes. She could feel her life slipping away as the pod entered the planet's atmosphere. The landing was rough. The pod crashed through trees and stone before finally stopping in a field of white snow. The door opened automatically, letting in cold air that burned Yuna's damaged lungs. She crawled out into the snow, leaving a trail of purple blood behind her. The world around her was silent, and white, and beautiful. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks covered in ice. Strange trees stood bare against the gray sky. Yuna collapsed face down in the snow. She was dying. She was alone. And no one in the entire universe knew she was here. Her silver eyes closed, and darkness took her. Bomi was an old dog, but her nose still worked perfectly. She had lived on the mountain farm for 12 years, ever since Taeyang brought her home as a small puppy. She was a Jindo, a Korean breed known for loyalty and courage. Her fur was cream-colored with patches of brown, and her eyes were dark and intelligent. Every morning, Bomi followed the same routine. She would wake up before sunrise, stretch her aging legs, and walk around the farm to check that everything was safe. She would smell the air for any sign of danger, listen for any unusual sounds, and watch the tree line for any movement. Only when she was satisfied that all was well, would she return to the farmhouse and wait for Taeyang to wake up. But this morning was different. This morning, there was a new smell on the wind. Bomi stood at the edge of the farm and lifted her nose toward the mountains. The smell was strange, unlike anything she had encountered before. It was not animal. It was not human. It was something else entirely. Something that made her fur stand up along her spine. She looked back at the farmhouse. Through the window, she could see Taeyang moving around the kitchen, preparing his morning tea. He had not noticed anything unusual. He had not smelled what she smelled. Bomi made a decision. She ran toward the forest. "Bomi, come back here!" Taeyang called from the door. But the dog did not stop. She ran faster than she had run in years, her old legs finding new strength as she followed the strange scent through the trees. The forest was cold and quiet. Snow covered the ground, making it easy for Bomi to see her path. She ran uphill, past frozen streams and fallen logs, deeper into the wilderness, where even Taeyang rarely went. The smell grew stronger with every step. After nearly an hour of running, Bomi found what she was looking for. The escape pod had crashed in a small clearing, leaving a long trail of destruction behind it. Trees were broken and burned. The ground was torn apart, and in the middle of it all lay a strange metal object shaped like an egg, its door open and smoking. Bomi approached carefully, her nose working overtime to understand what she was seeing. The smell was coming from inside the metal egg and from something lying in the snow nearby. It was a creature unlike any Bomi had seen before. The creature had a shape similar to a human, but its skin was pale blue and seemed to glow faintly. Its hair was white like snow, and its eyes were closed. It wore strange clothing made of shimmering material, now torn and stained with purple liquid that Bomi understood must be blood. The creature was not moving, but it was still breathing, barely. Bomi walked closer and sniffed the creature's face. It smelled like flowers and metal and something else, something ancient and distant. The dog did not understand what this creature was or where it came from. She only knew one thing. It was hurt, and it was dying. Bomi had been trained as a rescue dog when she was young. Taeyang had worked for the Mountain Rescue Service, and Bomi had helped him find many lost hikers and injured climbers. She knew what to do when she found someone in trouble. She should run back and lead Taeyang to the location. But the creature was so cold, its breathing was becoming slower and weaker. If Bomi left now, it might die before she returned. So Bomi made another decision. She lay down next to the creature, pressing her warm body against its freezing skin. She wrapped herself around it as best she could, sharing her heat the way a mother dog shares warmth with her puppies. The night came quickly in the mountains. The temperature dropped even further. Snow began to fall from the dark sky, covering both the dog and the alien princess in a white blanket. Bomi did not move. She stayed pressed against the creature all through the long, cold night. Sometimes the creature would shake violently, and Bomi would push closer, trying to give more warmth. Sometimes the creature would make small sounds of pain, and Bomi would lick its face gently, the way she comforted Taeyang when he was sad. Hours passed. The snow piled up around them. Bomi's old bones ached from the cold. But she did not leave. She had found someone who needed help, and she would not abandon them. When the first light of dawn appeared over the mountains, Bomi finally stood up. The creature was still alive, still breathing, though very weak. Its strange, glowing skin had become dim, almost gray. There was not much time left. Bomi ran. She ran faster than she had ever run before, ignoring the pain in her legs and the tiredness in her body. She crashed through the snow and the bushes and the frozen streams. She ran until she could see the farmhouse again, until she could see Taeyang standing in the doorway with a worried expression on his face. "Bomi, where have you been? I have been looking everywhere for you." Bomi did not stop to be petted or to rest. She barked loudly. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then she ran back toward the forest, stopping after a few meters to look back at Taeyang. He understood immediately. He had worked with this dog for 12 years. He knew what that bark meant. He knew what that look meant. Someone needed help. Taeyang grabbed his coat, his first aid kit, and his old rescue pack. He followed Bomi into the forest, struggling to keep up with the determined dog. She led him over hills and through valleys, along paths he had never walked before, deeper into the wilderness than he had explored in years. Finally, they reached the clearing. Taeyang stopped and stared. He saw the crashed metal object, its strange design clearly not made by any technology he recognized. He saw the burned trees and the torn ground, and he saw the creature lying in the snow, barely visible beneath the white powder that covered it. "What in the world?" he whispered. He approached slowly, his heart beating fast in his chest. When he saw the creature clearly, when he saw its blue skin and white hair and closed silver eyes, he felt fear rising inside him. This was not human. This was something from beyond the stars, something that should not exist according to everything he thought he knew about the universe. But then he saw Bomi. The old dog had returned to the creature's side and was pressing against it again, trying to share her warmth. She looked up at Taeyang, with eyes that said clearly, "Help, please help." Taeyang knelt in the snow. He checked the creature's breathing, felt its strange pulse, saw the purple blood that had dried on its clothing. Whatever this being was, it was dying, and Taeyang was not the kind of man who let anyone die if he could help it. He lifted the creature in his arms. It was surprisingly light. as if its bones were made of something less dense than human bones. He held it against his chest, wrapped his coat around it, and began the long walk back to the farmhouse. Bommy walked beside him the entire way, never leaving the creature's side. When they finally reached the farm, Taeyang laid the creature on his bed and covered it with every blanket he owned. He built a fire in the fireplace and closed all the windows to keep the heat inside. He did not know what else to do. He looked at Bommy, who had jumped onto the bed and curled up next to the creature. "Good girl," he said softly. "Very good girl." He had many questions, but they would have to wait. For now, there was a life to save. Dr. Yoonji arrived at the farm just as the sun was setting. She was Taeyang's younger sister, a veterinarian who worked in the city but visited him whenever her busy schedule allowed. She had driven for 3 hours through mountain roads, looking forward to a quiet weekend of tea and conversation with her brother. She did not expect to find an alien dying in his bedroom. "What is this?" she whispered, standing frozen in the doorway. "Taeyang, what is this?" Her brother stood beside the bed, looking exhausted and worried. The strange creature lay beneath a pile of blankets, its blue skin now almost gray. Bommy was still curled up next to it, refusing to move. "I do not know what she is," Taeyang admitted. "But she is dying. I found her in the mountains this morning. There was some kind of crashed ship nearby. Not like anything made by humans. She needs help, Yoonji. Real medical help." Yoonji shook her head slowly. "I am a veterinarian. I fix dogs and cats and sometimes cows. I do not know anything about whatever this is." "You know more than I do," Taeyang said firmly. "You went to medical school before you switched to animals. You understand biology, how bodies work. Please, sister. At least try." Yoonji wanted to refuse. Every logical part of her brain was screaming that this was impossible, that aliens did not exist, that she should call the police or the military, or someone who knew how to handle such things. But then she looked at the creature's face, so peaceful and strange and beautiful, and she saw how slowly it was breathing, and she looked at Bommy, the old dog, who had found this creature and refused to leave its side. "Fine," Yoonji said quietly. "I will try." She opened her medical bag and began to examine the creature. What she found amazed and confused her in equal measure. The creature had 2 hearts, both beating weakly but steadily. It had 4 lungs, but 3 of them were severely damaged, filled with fluid that looked like purple blood. Its bones were lighter than human bones but seemed stronger. Its blood was not red but violet. And when Yoonji tested it with her equipment, she discovered it was based on copper instead of iron. "This is incredible," she murmured as she worked. "This biology is completely different from anything on Earth. But it still follows logical patterns. Everything serves a purpose. Everything connects." She worked through the night, using every bit of knowledge she had ever learned. She could not save all 4 lungs, but she found a way to drain the damaged ones and support the remaining 2. She created a blood substitute using copper compounds from the farm's supplies, mixing it with saline solution in ways that should not have worked, but somehow did. The hardest part was the surgery. Using tools meant for animals, Yoonji carefully repaired the worst of the internal damage. Her hands shook sometimes, but she did not stop. She could not stop. Throughout the entire procedure, Bommy stayed on the bed. The creature's vital signs seemed to improve whenever the dog was close, as if the animal's presence was providing some kind of comfort or healing energy. Yoonji did not understand it, but she did not question it either. When morning came, Yoonji finally stepped back from the bed. Her hands were covered in purple blood. Her eyes were red from exhaustion, but the creature was still alive. Its breathing was stronger. Its 2 working lungs were functioning properly. "I cannot believe it," Yoonji whispered. "It should not have survived. By all logic, it should have died hours ago." Taeyang handed her a cup of hot tea. Perhaps logic is not everything. They watched over the creature for the next 2 days. Yoonji checked its vital signs every few hours, adjusting her treatments as needed. Taeyang kept the fire burning and prepared food for his sister and water for Bommy. The dog never left the creature's side, not even to eat. Taeyang had to bring her food to the bedroom. On the third day, the creature opened its eyes. Yoonji was sitting in a chair beside the bed, reading a medical journal, when she heard a soft sound. She looked up and found herself staring into eyes like polished silver mirrors. The creature looked at her without fear. It looked at the room, at the wooden walls and simple furniture, at the fire burning in the fireplace. It looked at Bami, still curled up beside it, and something like wonder crossed its strange face. Then it spoke. The words sounded like music, flowing and beautiful, unlike any language Yoonji had ever heard. But somehow, strangely, she could understand parts of it. The sounds reminded her of old Korean shamanic chants, the kind her grandmother used to sing when she was a child. "Where am I?" the creature asked. Its voice was weak but clear. Unji's mouth opened and closed several times before she could respond. "You are on Earth. In Korea. In my brother's farmhouse. You crashed in the mountains 3 days ago." The creature nodded slowly, as if this made sense. Earth. The quarantined world. The primitive planet. Primitive? Unji felt slightly offended despite herself. "Forgive me. That is what our records say. I see now that they are wrong." The creature turned its head toward Bomi. "This animal. It saved me. I remember warmth in the cold darkness. I remember a heartbeat next to mine." Yoonji smiled despite everything. "Her name is Bami. She found you in the snow and kept you warm all night. Then she led my brother to you." The creature's silver eyes widened. "An animal did this? For a stranger? For someone not of its kind?" "Bomi has always been special," Taeyang said from the doorway. He had been watching quietly, not wanting to interrupt. "She was trained as a rescue dog when she was young. She has saved many lives. But I have never seen her act like this before. She has not left your side since we brought you here." The creature reached out with a trembling hand and touched Bomi's fur. The dog's tail wagged gently. "On my world, we have no creatures like this," the creature said softly. "We have machines that serve us, guards that protect us, advisors that guide us, but nothing that loves without reason, nothing that gives without expecting something in return." Unji moved closer to the bed. "Can you tell us your name? Where you came from? What happened to you?" The creature was quiet for a long moment. Then it spoke again, its voice heavy with sadness. "My name is Yuna. I am a princess of the Valori Empire. I was traveling to make peace with our enemies when they betrayed us. They destroyed my ship, killed my crew, and left me for dead. I survived only by chance, crashing here on your world." Taeyang sat down on the edge of the bed. "A princess? A real princess from space?" Yuna smiled weakly. "Yes. Though I do not feel much like a princess right now." She looked at Yoonji with genuine gratitude. "You saved my life. You, a stranger, used your skills to heal someone who is not even of your species. Why?" Yoonji thought about the question carefully before answering. "Because you needed help. Because I could help. Because that is what we do." Yuna turned to look at Bami again, at the old dog who had risked everything for someone she did not know. "I am beginning to understand," Yuna whispered. "I am beginning to see that this primitive world is not primitive at all." She closed her eyes and slept, but this time it was the sleep of healing, not the darkness of death. And Bomi stayed beside her, guarding her dreams. The days turned into weeks, and Yuna grew stronger. Her 2 remaining lungs learned to work harder, compensating for the ones she had lost. Her skin slowly returned to its natural pale blue color, and the faint glow began to appear again when she was happy or excited. She could walk now, first with help and then on her own, exploring the small farmhouse and the land around it. Everything on Earth amazed her. She had traveled to hundreds of worlds during her life, seen countless alien civilizations and strange environments, but nothing had prepared her for the simple beauty of this place. The mountains covered in snow, the forests filled with tall trees, the small stream that ran behind the farmhouse and made gentle sounds as it flowed over rocks. And the creatures. Earth was full of life in ways that most planets were not. Birds sang in the morning. Insects buzzed in the grass. Small, furry animals ran through the underbrush. Yuna spent hours watching them all, fascinated by their colors and movements and sounds. But mostly, she spent her time with Balmy. The old dog had become her constant companion. Wherever Yuna went, Balmy followed. When Yuna sat on the porch to watch the sunset, Balmy sat beside her. When Yuna walked through the forest to rebuild her strength, Balmy walked with her. When Yuna cried at night, remembering her lost friends and destroyed ship, Balmy would climb onto the bed and press against her until the tears stopped. Yuna had never known anything like this before. On her world, relationships were formal and structured. Parents loved their children, but they expressed it through duty and education. Friends cared for each other, but they maintained proper distance. Romantic partners followed ancient traditions of courtship and commitment. Nothing was spontaneous. Nothing was unconditional. Balmy loved without any conditions at all. The dog did not care that Yuna was a princess. She did not care that Yuna was an alien from another world. She did not care that Yuna had lost everything and had nothing to offer in return. Balmy simply loved her because she existed, because she was there, because she was someone who needed love. Taeyang tried to explain it to her one evening as they sat together on the porch. "Dogs have been with humans for thousands of years," he said, pouring tea for both of them. "They evolved alongside us. They learned to read our emotions, to understand our needs, to become part of our families. A good dog does not see a master and a pet. A good dog sees a pack, a family, a group of beings who belong together." Yuna watched Balmy sleeping at her feet. "On my world, we believe that love must be earned. That loyalty must be proven through actions over time. That trust is built slowly through careful testing." Taeyang smiled. "Dogs do not believe that. Dogs believe that love is the starting point, not the destination. They love first and trust first. And they expect you to be worthy of that love. When you are, they love you more. When you fail, they forgive you and love you anyway." "That seems dangerous," Yuna said softly. "To give your heart so freely, without protection. It is dangerous." Taeyang agreed. "Dogs get hurt sometimes. Humans are not always worthy of the love they receive. But dogs keep loving anyway. They believe that love is always worth the risk." Yuna thought about this for a long time. She thought about her own life, the walls she had built around her heart, the careful distance she maintained from everyone except her closest advisors. She had believed she was being wise and cautious. Now she wondered if she had simply been afraid. She learned about Taeyang during these quiet evenings. He had been married once, to a woman named Minji who died of illness 5 years ago. They had no children. After her death, Taeyang left his job in the city and moved to this mountain farm, wanting to be alone with his grief and his memories. Balmy was all he had left of his old life. The dog had been Minji's before she was Taeyang's. When Minji died, Balmy mourned in her own way, spending days lying beside the empty bed, waiting for a person who would never return. "She saved me," Taeyang said quietly. "After Minji passed, I did not want to continue living. But Balmy needed me. She could not take care of herself. So I kept going, one day at a time, because someone depended on me. And slowly, the pain became bearable." Yuna understood. She had felt the same way after the attack, lying in the snow, waiting for death. But Balmy had found her and given her a reason to survive. Yoonji visited on weekends, bringing medical supplies and news from the outside world. She had told no one about their alien guest. The three of them agreed that the world was not ready to know about life beyond Earth. Such knowledge would cause panic, fear, perhaps even war. "But you cannot stay hidden forever," Yoonji pointed out one day. "Your people will be looking for you. Your enemies will want to confirm you are dead. Sooner or later, someone will come to this planet." Yuna nodded. She had been thinking about this constantly. "My people believe I died in the attack. By now, the Terran Dominion has probably told everyone that I was the aggressor, that I started the fight. They will use my death to justify taking control of my empire." "Then you must go back," Taeyang said. You must tell your people the truth. Yes, Yuna agreed. But how? My ship is destroyed. Your planet has no vessels capable of traveling between stars. Even if I could send a message, the Terran would intercept it and twist my words. She looked out the window at the distant mountains. I am trapped here. And while I am trapped, everything I love is being destroyed. Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up and walked to an old wooden chest in the corner of the room. He opened it and removed a metal box, dusty and covered with strange markings. 25 years ago, I was not just a rescue worker, he said slowly. I was part of a special military team. Our job was to investigate unusual events, things that the government did not want the public to know about. He opened the metal box. Inside was a collection of photographs, documents, and small pieces of technology that looked nothing like anything made by humans. We found a crashed ship in these very mountains. The pilot did not survive, but the technology remained. I was part of the team that studied it, that tried to understand how it worked. The project was classified at the highest level. We were forbidden to speak of it to anyone. Yuna's eyes widened as she looked at the items in the box. She recognized some of the technology. It was old, very old by galactic standards. But it was real. Alien engineering. The project was shut down years ago, Taeyang continued. The technology was hidden away, considered too dangerous for humanity to use. But I kept some pieces, and I still have contacts with others who were part of the project. He looked at Yuna with determination in his eyes. If we combine what you know with what we have, perhaps we can build something. A small ship, just big enough to carry you home. It will be difficult. It will take time. But it might be possible. Yuna felt tears forming in her silver eyes. You would do this? You would help an alien return to a war on the other side of the galaxy? Taeyang smiled and pointed at Bomi, who had woken up and was watching them with bright, intelligent eyes. She saved your life without asking why. The least I can do is help you keep living it. Yuna knelt down and wrapped her arms around the old dog, feeling the warm fur and the steady heartbeat against her chest. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you both. Thank you for showing me what humans truly are. The work would begin tomorrow. But tonight, there was peace on the mountain and hope for the future. Taeyang made phone calls to people he had not spoken to in 20 years. Some were surprised to hear from him. Others had been waiting for this call, knowing that someday the secrets they kept would become important again. They came one by one, arriving at the mountain farm in old cars and borrowed trucks, carrying boxes of equipment and memories of a time when they touched the stars. Major Jisoo was the first to arrive. She was a pilot now working for a civilian airline, but 20 years ago she had been part of the military investigation team. She was a small woman, with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. When she saw Yuna standing in the doorway, her face showed no surprise. I knew this day would come, she said simply. I have been preparing for it ever since I saw that first ship crash. Dr. Minho came next. He was an engineer who had spent his career working on conventional aircraft, but he had never forgotten the alien technology he studied in his youth. He brought boxes of notes and diagrams, calculations he had made over the decades, theories about how the alien engines might work. The principles are not so different from our own physics, he explained to Yuna as they spread the documents across Taeyang's kitchen table. Energy, momentum, space-time curvature. Your people just understand them better than we do. With your knowledge and our materials, we might be able to build something functional. The last to arrive was Sujin, a young woman who had never been part of the original project but had inherited her father's files after his death. She was a hacker and technology expert, skilled at hiding information from those who should not see it. If we are going to build a spaceship in a barn, we need to make sure no one notices, she said, setting up her computer equipment. Satellites, surveillance systems, government databases. I can blind them all. At least for a few months. The work began immediately. They cleared out Taeyang's old barn and transformed it into a workshop. Minho ordered materials from dozens of different suppliers, never enough from any one source to attract attention. Sujin created fake identities and false records to hide their activities. Jisoo used her airline connections to acquire specialized fuels and metals that were not available to ordinary citizens. Yuna provided the most important contribution: knowledge. She spent hours each day drawing diagrams and explaining concepts, teaching these humans about technologies that her own people had developed over thousands of years. The Valori considered space travel to be simple, as basic as walking. But watching these humans struggle to understand it, Yuna realized how remarkable their achievement truly was. "Your species has only been traveling to space for less than a century," she said one evening, amazed. "And already you have sent machines to other planets, built stations in orbit, landed on your moon. My people took 10 times as long to accomplish the same things." Jisoo shrugged. "Humans are stubborn. When someone tells us we cannot do something, we take it as a challenge." The months passed. The shuttle began to take shape, a small vessel barely large enough for 3 passengers. It was ugly by Valori standards, a rough combination of human engineering and alien technology. But Minho assured Yuna that it would fly. "Beauty can come later," he said, welding 2 pieces of metal together. "First we prove it works. Then we make it pretty." Throughout this time, Yuna watched the humans closely. She had expected them to argue, to fight over resources and decisions, to let their egos interfere with the work. That was what happened on her world when different groups tried to cooperate. Politics and power struggles always got in the way. But these humans were different. They disagreed sometimes, debated loudly, challenged each other's ideas. Yet they always found a way to move forward together. They shared their knowledge freely, without worrying about credit or recognition. They sacrificed their time, their money, their safety, all for a mission that would bring them no personal reward. When Yuna asked Taeyang about this, he thought for a moment before answering. "We are not doing this for reward. We are doing it because it is the right thing to do. You need help, and we can help you. That is enough." "But you risk everything," Yuna protested. "If your government discovers what you are doing, you will be arrested. Your lives will be ruined." Taeyang looked at Bomi, who was sleeping in a patch of sunlight near the barn door. "When Bomi found you in the snow, she did not think about risk. She did not calculate whether saving you was worth the danger. She simply saw someone who needed help and acted." Humans try to be like that too, sometimes. Yuna felt tears in her eyes again. She had cried more during her time on Earth than she had in the previous 100 years of her life. "My people call themselves civilized because we have technology and order and ancient traditions. But watching you, I wonder if we have forgotten what civilization truly means. Caring for others, helping strangers, building something together not for power or profit but because it makes the universe a little better." The shuttle was completed on a cold winter night, 6 months after Yuna had crashed on Earth. It sat in the barn, humming with power, ready to carry her back to the stars. But there was one problem. The journey would be dangerous. Yuna would be flying alone into hostile territory, facing enemies who wanted her dead. The chances of success were small. "I will not let you go alone," Taeyang said when they discussed the plan. "I am coming with you." Yuna shook her head firmly. "You cannot. This is not your war. I will not let you die for my people's problems." "Too late," Jisoo said, stepping forward. "We already decided. Taeyang flies with you as co-pilot. I will stay here and monitor your communications. Minho and Sujin will support from Earth." "And Bomi?" Yuna asked, looking at the old dog who never left her side. Taeyang smiled. "Try leaving her behind. See what happens." They tried, once, as an experiment. Yuna walked toward the barn, while Taeyang held Bomi in the farmhouse. The dog howled and scratched at the door, a sound so sad and desperate that Yuna could not bear it. She ran back and held the dog in her arms, promising never to try that again. "Then she comes with us," Yuna said finally. "The first dog in space, the first Earth animal to travel between stars." Minho made modifications to the shuttle, adding a small compartment with everything Bomi would need for the journey. Sujin created false flight records to explain why a small aircraft was leaving the area. Jisoo reviewed the flight plan one final time. The night before launch, they gathered in the farmhouse for a simple meal. No one spoke much. There were too many things to say, and no words adequate to say them. Eunji arrived just before midnight. She brought medical supplies for the journey and hugged her brother for a long time without speaking. "Come back," she whispered. "Both of you." Taeyang held her tight. "We will. I promise." The next morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, the shuttle lifted off from the barn. It rose slowly at first, then faster, breaking through the clouds and continuing upward into the thin atmosphere, and finally into the darkness of space. Yuna looked back at the blue planet growing smaller beneath them. Somewhere down there, a small group of humans had risked everything to help a stranger from another world. She would never forget them, and she would never let their trust be wasted. The shuttle turned toward the distant stars, toward home, toward war. The journey through space took 3 weeks. The small shuttle was not fast by galactic standards, but Minho's engineering held together perfectly. The human technology and Valori knowledge worked in harmony, carrying them safely across the vast emptiness between stars. Taeyang spent most of the journey learning. Yuna taught him about the galaxy, the different species, the complex politics that had led to the war. She explained the Valori Empire and its ancient traditions, the Terran Dominion and its hunger for power. She told him about her family, her father, the Emperor, her mother who died when Yuna was young. "And now they all think you are dead," Taeyang said as he checked the navigation systems. "Yes," Yuna replied quietly. "The Terran will have spread lies about what happened. They will say I attacked them, that I started the conflict. My people may believe I am a traitor as well as a victim. Then we show them the truth." Bomi slept through most of the journey, comfortable in her special compartment. But she woke up when they approached Valori space, as if she could sense that something important was happening. What they found was chaos. The Valori Empire was in ruins. Terran warships patrolled every major system. The capital planet was surrounded by a blockade. Communications were jammed except for official Terran broadcasts, which repeated the same lies over and over. Princess Yuna had betrayed her people. The Emperor was too weak to rule. A new government, supported by the Terran, was bringing order to the chaos. "They moved fast," Yuna whispered, watching the sensor readings with horror. "They must have planned this for years, waiting for the right moment to strike." Taeyang's jaw tightened. "So what do we do now?" Yuna thought carefully. She could not broadcast the truth from here. The Terran would jam her signal immediately. She could not fight her way through the blockade. Their little shuttle had no weapons and no shields. She needed to find another way. Then she remembered the Imperial beacon. Every Valori world had a communication tower connected to the central network. These towers could be silenced or controlled by whoever held power. But on the capital planet, there was a special tower called the Imperial Beacon, built by the first emperor thousands of years ago. It could not be jammed or shut down because it operated on technology that even the current Valori did not fully understand. If Yuna could reach the Imperial Beacon, she could broadcast her message to the entire empire. Everyone would hear the truth, from the highest nobles to the lowest workers. "There is only one problem," she admitted. "The Imperial Beacon is in the center of the capital city, heavily guarded. Getting there will require fighting through Terran soldiers." Taeyang smiled grimly and reached for the bag he had brought from Earth. From it, he pulled a shotgun, modified with alien technology that Minho had added during the construction of the shuttle. "I was a soldier once. Before I became a rescue worker, I still remember how to fight." The shuttle slipped past the Terran blockade, using codes that Yuna still remembered from her days as princess. They landed in a remote area outside the capital city, hiding the vessel beneath the branches of purple trees that grew everywhere on the Valori homeworld. The journey to the city took 2 days on foot. Yuna wore a hood to hide her distinctive features, while Taeyang kept his human appearance hidden beneath heavy clothing. Bomi walked between them, her senses alert for any sign of danger. They saw what the Terran had done to the Empire. Soldiers patrolled every street. Citizens were afraid to speak openly. Posters showing Yuna's face called her a traitor, and offered rewards for information about anyone who supported the old royal family. "My people are suffering," Yuna said bitterly as they moved through the shadows. "And they believe I caused this suffering." They reached the capital city on the third day. The imperial beacon rose in the center. A tall tower of crystal and light that had stood for millennia. Terran soldiers surrounded it, dozens of them, armed with powerful weapons. "There is no way to reach it without being seen," Taeyang observed. Yuna nodded. "Then we do not try to hide. We fight." The attack began at dawn. Taeyang moved first, firing his modified shotgun at the nearest group of soldiers. The alien technology in the weapon made it far more powerful than any Earth gun. Each blast took down multiple enemies. The Terran were caught by surprise, expecting no resistance in the heart of their occupied territory. Yuna ran toward the tower while Taeyang covered her. She had no weapons, only speed and determination. She dodged enemy fire, rolled beneath closing doors, climbed stairs 3 at a time. Behind her, Taeyang fought like a man possessed. He had never faced alien soldiers before, but the principles of combat were the same everywhere. Take cover. Aim carefully. Keep moving. Do not let fear control you. Bommi ran at his side, and when a Terran soldier tried to attack Taeyang from behind, the old dog leaped at the enemy's throat. Her teeth were still sharp, her instincts still strong. The soldier fell, and Bommi returned to Taeyang's side, ready for the next threat. Yuna was almost at the top of the tower when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see a Terran assassin, a member of the elite unit trained specifically to kill Valori royalty. He wore black armor and carried a blade that glowed with deadly energy. "The princess lives," the assassin said mockingly. Not for long. He moved faster than Yuna could react. She felt the blade slice through the air toward her chest, knowing she could not dodge in time. Then something slammed into the assassin from behind. He stumbled forward, his strike going wide. Yuna looked past him and saw Bommi, the old Jindo dog from Earth, standing in the doorway with blood on her muzzle. The dog had climbed the entire tower, following her beloved friend, and attacked the assassin at the perfect moment. Yuna did not waste the opportunity. She grabbed the assassin's arm, twisted it sharply, and took his blade. One quick strike ended the threat forever. "Good girl," she whispered to Bommi. "Very, very good girl." She reached the top of the tower and placed her hand on the ancient control panel. It recognized her blood, her royal heritage, her right to speak. The imperial beacon activated, and suddenly her voice was broadcasting to every corner of the empire. "I am Yuna of House Valori," she said, her voice strong and clear. "I live. I was betrayed by the Terran Dominion, ambushed during a peace mission, left for dead in the emptiness of space. Everything they have told you is a lie." She took a deep breath and continued. "I survived because of the kindness of strangers. I was rescued by beings from a world called Earth, a planet we had dismissed as primitive and unimportant. They healed my wounds, sheltered me in their home, and helped me return to you. They asked for nothing in return. They helped me simply because I needed help." Throughout the empire, Valori citizens stopped what they were doing and listened. In the streets below, Terran soldiers tried to shut down the broadcast, but the ancient technology resisted all their efforts. "The Terran fear what I represent," Yuna continued. "Not my title or my power, but the truth. They fear that you will remember what the Valori Empire was meant to be. A force for peace, for justice, for compassion. They fear that you will rise up and reclaim your heritage." She looked down at Bommi, who sat patiently at her feet. "I bring proof of Terran treachery. I bring evidence of their crimes. And I bring something else as well. Proof that there is goodness in this universe. That kindness exists even in the darkest places. That hope is never truly lost as long as someone is willing to fight for it." The broadcast ended. The tower went silent, but the message had been sent, and nothing could take it back. The revolution began before nightfall. The revolution spread like fire across dry grass. On every Valori world, Citizens who had been too afraid to speak now rose up against their Terran occupiers. Soldiers who had pretended to serve the puppet government revealed their true loyalty to the royal family. Ships that had been hiding in the outer systems emerged to join the fight. The Terran had underestimated how deeply the Valori people loved their princess. Within 3 months, the occupation collapsed. The Terran Dominion, faced with rebellion on hundreds of worlds and abandoned by their allies who wanted no part of the coming disaster, agreed to negotiations. The puppet emperor was arrested and confessed to his crimes. The true story of the ambush was revealed to the entire galaxy, and Princess Yuna, the woman who had been left for dead in the cold of space, was crowned Empress of the Valori. The coronation ceremony was held in the Grand Palace, a building of crystal and light that had stood for 10,000 years. Representatives from every species in the galaxy attended, watching as Yuna received the crown that had belonged to her father and his father before him. She wore robes of deep purple, the color of her people, decorated with new symbols that she had designed herself. Among the ancient Valori patterns, there was now a new image, a small dog with cream-colored fur, running beneath the stars. After the ceremony, Empress Yuna addressed the Galactic Council. She spoke first about the war, about the treachery of the Terran, about the peace that must now be built on foundations of truth and justice. The Council listened and agreed to impose sanctions on the Terran Dominion, ensuring they would never threaten the galaxy again. Then she spoke about Earth. In our databases, Earth is listed as a primitive world, a Class 7 civilization, not worthy of contact. We placed them under quarantine, deciding that they were too backward, too simple, too unimportant to join our community of stars. She paused, letting her words sink in. We were wrong. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Some delegates looked confused. Others looked offended. No one had ever questioned the classification system before. I crashed on Earth near death, alone, without hope. A dog found me in the snow and kept me warm through the coldest night. A farmer carried me to his home and nursed me back to health. A doctor used her skills to heal wounds that should have been fatal. And when I needed to return home, a group of humans built me a ship using technology they barely understood, risking everything to help a stranger from another world. She looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 100 species. They asked for nothing in return. They did not care about politics or power or reward. They helped me because I needed help. Because that is who they are. Empress Yuna raised her hand, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. Unremarkable in every measurable way. I propose that Earth's quarantine be lifted. I propose that humanity be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Union, with full rights to trade, travel, and participate in our community. I propose that we welcome them not despite their primitive technology, but because of their extraordinary hearts. The vote was not unanimous. Some species feared that humans would bring chaos to the galaxy. Others worried about the cultural contamination of such a young civilization. But Empress Yuna had earned great respect through her survival and her victory. And her word carried weight. The motion passed. Earth's quarantine was lifted, and within a year, the first galactic ships arrived in the solar system, carrying ambassadors and scientists and traders eager to meet the remarkable species that had saved their empress. Taeyang returned to Earth as a hero, though he refused most honors. He told the story of his adventure to anyone who would listen, always emphasizing that he had done nothing special. I just did what any decent person would do, he said in every interview. I saw someone who needed help, and I helped. That is not heroism. That is just being human. Unji became one of the first humans to study alien medicine, working with Valori doctors to develop treatments that could help both species. Minho and Jisoo received positions in the New Earth Space Authority, helping to design the first human ships capable of true interstellar travel. Sujin was offered a job by Galactic Intelligence but turned it down, preferring to stay on Earth and protect it from those who might misuse the new technology. And Bomi, the old Jindo dog who had started everything, became the most famous animal in the galaxy. Statues of her were erected on a dozen worlds. Children of every species learned her story in school. She received medals and honors from governments that had existed before humanity learned to use fire. But Bomi did not care about fame or medals. She was an old dog, happy to sleep in patches of sunlight and eat her favorite treats and be petted by the people she loved. Empress Yuna visited Earth once every year, keeping her promise to return. She would arrive quietly, avoiding the crowds of reporters and officials who wanted her attention. She would drive up the mountain road to a small farm where an old man and an old dog were waiting. The farmhouse had not changed. The same wooden walls, the same simple furniture, the same fireplace where Yuna had once fought for her life. Taeyang would make tea, and they would sit on the porch and watch the sunset over the mountains. Bomi would rest her gray muzzle in Yuna's lap, her tail wagging slowly, content to be with the friend she had saved all those years ago. "You changed the galaxy," Taeyang said during one of these visits. "You brought humanity into a community of stars. You ended a war that had lasted for generations. All because you survived." Yuna shook her head gently. "I did not change anything. Your people did. You showed the galaxy what it means to be kind without reason, to help without reward, to love without condition." She looked down at Bomi, whose eyes were closed in peaceful sleep. "She taught me more than any teacher I ever had. She showed me that the greatest power in the universe is not technology or weapons or ancient knowledge. It is the simple choice to care about another living being, even when there is nothing to gain." Taeyang smiled and refilled their teacups. She always was a good dog. Eunji arrived later that evening with her children, who called the alien empress Auntie Yuna and demanded stories about her adventures in space. Yuna told them about brave soldiers and terrible battles and narrow escapes, but she always ended with the same lesson. Remember that the greatest heroes are not always the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes they are just the ones who refuse to look away when someone needs help. Sometimes they are an old dog who finds a stranger in the snow and decides to save her. The children listened with wide eyes, then ran off to play with Bomi, who summoned enough energy to chase them around the yard despite her old age. Yuna watched them from the porch, feeling peace in her heart that she had never known before her crash on Earth. The galaxy was changing. Humanity was spreading among the stars, bringing their strange combination of stubbornness and kindness wherever they went. Old species were learning new lessons. Ancient conflicts were being resolved through cooperation instead of war. And at the center of it all, remembered in stories and statues and the grateful heart of an empress, was a small, cream-colored dog who had once found a dying princess in the snow and decided that she was worth saving. Some bonds are stronger than the stars, and some loves last forever.